we had like $10,000 left in our bank account, and we were like, let's just do the opposite of what we've been doing. I had the idea to do a show about takes. Business partner Andrew said, what if we did it on the subway? I said, you know what? We don't have money for a studio, so sounds good to me.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Kareem Rahma, a man who has too many jobs. Content creator, filmmaker, comedian, what else?
Musician, you forgot about musician.
Musician, that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Rock band, right?
Rock and roll, baby.
What kind of music?
I think it would feel like, I don't want to say classic rock but there's so many different classic rocks now. Like the Strokes are kind of classic rock.
Which is scary when you hear that, right?
Yeah. So it's like, I just say like, what I say is New York rock and roll.
I like
because that is a timeless endeavor, is New York rock and roll. So I make New York rock and roll.
Yeah, that's the resume, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I want to talk about what you're doing now and how you became a content creator. You have a very interesting background. You were a fellow journalist or a media person as well. And I want to just hear, like, how did you get to where you're at right now?
I spent, I'll fast rewind all the way. So I majored in journalism with an emphasis in advertising. This was in 2008. And I think at the time there wasn't really much conversation about journalism and advertising. And I certainly didn't try to predict the future, but I was simply trying to make the journalism degree a little cooler, a little more interesting. And this was the time when Mad Men was happening.
Gotcha.
So I was like, you know what, the advertising guys, they look like they're having a lot of fun. So let me just tack on this emphasis in advertising.
And it's good to have a backup in case journalism doesn't work out. You can always go into advertising.
I never had a desire to be a journalist. I just picked that major based on how fun and easy it looked.
Okay.
Was
it fun and easy?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was super fun and easy. How about you?
I studied, I didn't study journalism. I studied international relations undergrad, which a lot of journalists do because we can't pick what we want to do. So it's like a little this, little that. Then I went into the real world, worked in finance, and then I went to journalism afterwards, journalism school, which was like, I treated more like a job, and it was very cool.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
You don't need the school.
No.
No.
I would not recommend doing undergrad journalism. Grad school journalism, great, but go learn other skills.
Unless you're just doing a degree to get a degree, which is what I did.
Yes, but also, as you know, anyone can, like, it's not like you have to pass a test to be a journalist.
No.
But
you have to pass a number of tests.
You do.
The job market being probably the biggest test. Can you withstand being jobless for a really long time?
Yes, or working really hard for really little money.
Yeah, so it's more of a pain test. But once you make it in the club, pretty great perks.
Yeah.
So I majored in journalism, emphasis in advertising, ended up working at some advertising agencies for a while. My first gig was an SEO specialist, which at the time I hated, but I think has served me well. And then I moved to New York. I miraculously and accidentally got a job at Vice. This was in 2012.
Wow. This is when Vice had it was valued at $10 billion and all that crazy stuff?
It was before the 10 billion, but it was right when the first rounds of capital started infusing the company. So I saw it change overnight. I saw it go from we're a run and gun operation where I didn't have a desk or a computer the first week I worked there, to we're moving into a new multi-million-dollar office. I was there during, and the office size went from 75, 25-year-olds to 300 or 400 people of all ages. So it turned into a real company while I was there. And I was the head of audience development, which is kind of like a marketing role. It's kind of like a digital role. It's kind of a content role. It's kind of a little bit of everything.
Now, we have audience development here, but it's always at Forbes, but we see it as for events, like to fill seats. Was it live events for you? Is it totally different?
No, that's a whole new, that was not the role.
Okay.
That was event marketing. Audience development back then was more about, it was content marketing. It was trying to get the content into the right audience, and then also helping to develop content that was social first. And from there, I was poached by the New York Times, and I helped essentially launch what is now a film and television studio. At the time, it was called Times Video. I don't know what it's called now.
Okay.
But they wanted to serialize their video department and start making shows, right? So we developed some cooking shows, we developed some travel shows, we developed some style shows. And then I left to pursue my dream of entrepreneurship. I started a small media company that was kind of like a Vice meets Vox, meets Now This News, all companies that I think Vox is the only one that still exists.
Vox is around still, yes.
Good for them.
Yes.
They're doing well.
I think they've dove big into, they're doing a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, a lot of
big
podcasts.
deal,
And I think film and TV maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
They've had a couple shows. But that was, it was like a socially distributed, social first content machine. That's the name of one of my songs as well. And and from there, I just had this moment where I realized that I ran that thing for 5 years,
Yeah.
that company. And I realized that I was not, number one, not a good entrepreneur, not a good business person, I should say. Good entrepreneur, not a good businessman.
Why?
And
In what ways? What were you lacking?
there was never a plan.
Okay.
Never, ever. Which some may argue is a good businessman in this era of business. So I was always fly by the seat of the pants, moving fast, breaking things, but not breaking them in a good way. So it was always really like run and gun. And I also just was totally playing a role. The way I started the business was by listening to the podcast called Startup, about starting a podcast. That's where I learned about term sheets. That's where I learned about pitching. That's where I learned about literal venture.
That was like the first Gimlet Media that got bought big by Spotify. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a show that was about a guy who's a journalist starting a podcast company. And so I listened to that and I was like, okay, this is how you start a media company or entertainment company, and just did exactly what he did. Literally, I remember this. And, I learned about term sheets. I learned about pitching. I learned about pitch decks. I learned that they should be 10 pages. I learned so much stuff, but my heart wasn't in it. It was really about like trying to make money, which I also failed to do. I don't know if you've heard about the Museum of Pizza. One of my biggest failures, one of my biggest financial failures, where I spent $1 million and made zero.
What was the idea behind that?
I just saw the success of like the Museum of Ice Cream and experiential marketing at the time, and I was like, what's the internet's favorite food? Pizza. Threw a website together, sold like $300,000 or $600,000 worth of tickets in 48 hours, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm making this thing. But I did it with people with the tickets sales, which I don't think you're supposed to do. So like if anything had gone wrong, there would be no way to refund the money. That's what I mean by bad businessman.
Did you build the museum come to fruition?
Yeah. It happened.
What did it?
But I spent all the money.
What do you see in someone's pizza? What do you see in the Museum of Pizza?
I described it as like the MoMA dedicated to pizza. So whereas the other places were selfie museums or Instagram museums, mine was like literally a museum. So there was the world's largest collection of pizza boxes sourced from all over the world behind glass, like paintings. There was Andrew W.K.'s pizza-shaped guitar, and then there was work custom made for the museum by like 20 different artists who are really great artists, like Adam Green, who is the lead singer of the Moldy Peaches, and also an incredible papier-mâché artist, built this thing called Pizza Beach, which was like a room bigger than this that was all papier-mâché, and it was... this is the brief that I gave him. I was like, Pizza Beach. He goes, sounds good. So it was the MoMA for pizza.
There used to be a restaurant on the Upper East Side called Pizza Beach. I don't know if it's connected.
I probably accidentally like saw that word and was like, great.
How fast did this all come together? You said you sold the tickets with nothing. Like you sold the tickets, you had no physical museum.
I had a website and photos of people.
But you had no museum, nothing.
Nothing.
How fast did you throw this all together?
I think we launched the website in March or April, and then the museum opened in September. So it was pretty fast.
Okay.
And it would have been great had it not been for a shiesty landlord who essentially stole $20,000 from me and didn't give me the space. And I had to rush and find a whole new space about 4 or 6 weeks before the museum was set to be open. And so I essentially had to change the whole plan because it was supposed to be at this other building and there were already plans done, floor plans, everything. And then 4 weeks or 6 weeks before the museum was supposed to open, we had to get a new building and build the whole thing essentially all over again, which is why I lost all the money.
The whole new Pizza Beach. How long did the Museum Pizza stay alive for?
6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways,
what'd you do with all the pizza boxes?
I gave them back to the person that they were on loan from, Scott Wiener. Scott Wiener of Scott's Pizza Tours has the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest pizza box collection.
I like how that was on loan as if it was like a Rothko.
No, that's literally what it was. I looked at them as art. I mean, they were sourced from Japan and Kenya and like Cairo, Egypt, and all of these amazing places. So like it was something to look at. It was really cool. It looked like a gallery. It was called the Pizza Gallery.
It's a collection.
It was a collection. But that project, I think, was the nail in the coffin for my career in business. I was like, I need to figure out what I actually like and what I'm actually good at, because I think like sending emails for the rest of my life is not gonna work out for me. And so that was the moment that I decided to get in front of the camera.
Gotcha. And what year was this?
That was 2019.
Okay. So I want to take a step back for a second, because I love how you were doing a lot of this, between Vice, between the New York Times, a lot of new media in 2012, which sounds like it was new media then, but this is ancient stuff compared to now. Like, what sort of stuff were you doing back in 2012, and how did that lay the groundwork for what you're doing now?
I mean, a lot of it was just like innovating on content strategy and content distribution, like figuring out, like I had this one idea, which was like we wanted more traffic on our YouTube for Noisy, which was the Vice music channel. And we had an opportunity to work with the IAS and release the record via Vice Records, which I think no longer exists. But I had this idea, which now seems really normal, but like to have a listening party where everyone could listen to the album together via YouTube at the same time when it was released. But I think now YouTube has that functionality. But like at the time, we had to build a custom website that like you press play and everyone's listening to the music at the same time with like a chat room next to it. So it was like a virtual listening party.
So it's like we're going to drop this new album at like 9 p.m. on Saturday.
And everyone can listen to it at the same time. And so that was like an innovative idea that, no one had really thought of. That was the kind of stuff that I was thinking about. And then also like at the Times, I was the first person to put the Times on Snapchat. And it was like a completely renegade move. Like everyone was like, sure. And so I was like, I did the first report, the first vertical video report. And I wasn't even a journalist, but no one cared at the time. That like, they were like, whatever, go do whatever you want.
What was the topic?
It was about this guy, Ryder Ripps, who's an artist. And he was having an art gallery in Manhattan. And it was about the internet. And so I went there with my Snapchat, which was my phone at the time, and I just did like I hung out with him, and I published it on the New York Times Snapchat, and yeah, that was definitely their first foray into vertical video. I also did this thing which was called the Kickstarter Film Festival, where I curated. Again, this was like about audience, so I curated, I think it was 12 films that were made via Kickstarter.
Okay.
And I premiered them on the New York Times YouTube channel. And so Kickstarter promoted our YouTube channel. We promoted the films. And yeah, it was just like an interesting time where it was like the same thing that people do now, which is collaborate, like you go on my YouTube channel, I go on yours, podcasting, all that stuff. But it was at an organization that was in the midst of the digital transformation. Like this was around the time that I think was called the Innovation Report. I don't know. Remember that? Or it was like the Times had this thing, which was an internal audit.
Yes, and that was like...
It was a big deal.
It was, and the whole thing was like, be just like BuzzFeed. That was like how they're going to turn the New York Times into BuzzFeed. That was a lot of it.
It was very damning.
Yeah.
But it was at the same time a wake-up call. And I remember we had a meeting with... I don't think it was Ted. Is his name Ted Sarandos?
I'm not sure.
The Netflix guy? I think it's Ted Sarandos.
Yeah.
I don't think but we had a meeting with a Netflix executive, like the whole Times exec team, plus the digital people, about how Netflix had to essentially disrupt its own business, stop sending DVDs, and go to streaming in order to survive. And so they were there giving us like a pep talk about how the paper needs to not be a paper anymore. But that was the kind of work I was involved in.
Very cool. So you had like this great kind of early aughts grounding, or like late, like 2020, like the smartphones are already come out, but it's a social media. And this is like the time when social media was not just it was going from being your friends to brands, marketing, media, all that sort of stuff. And then you did the experiential stuff with the Museum of Pizza. Mm-hmm. And then you decided, I'm done with this.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I had spent, because even the SEO stuff was like, I had no idea how the internet worked until I got that job, which was an internship that became a job. And I was like, oh, all the Google search results they're like manipulated in a way, even if they're so-called optimized. Yeah. Like optimization is manipulation to some degree. So understanding how the internet worked from that early, which was like 2008, it just was so powerful and allowed me to have a certain perspective that I think a lot of people in media didn't necessarily have, right? Like some people knew what SEO was, but not a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how it was done, you know? So there was like so many points in my career where I felt like I was doing the wrong thing, but they all kind of led me to a place where I finally feel like I'm doing the right thing. And all of that information has come in handy and is very useful.
It's funny because you said 2008. That's when I first started interning at Forbes. And, you know, Forbes has always been cutting edge, but I was on the magazine side. And then we had a firewall, and then down the street, there was the .com. And the magazine was still just putting the magazine out. And then they would have someone maybe digitize the magazine, but a lot of times they didn't. So like even in 2008, people were just thinking in the print state of mind in my division. And then the website side was learning all that stuff. But it was very interesting that we kept it separate for a couple of years. And then obviously it's all mashed together now.
And would they publish the magazine articles online other than digitizing the magazine?
You know, they used to, like when I first started, no. And then they would start picking us like one story, an issue, and putting it online.
Wow.
And then we moved it all together online. But even then it wasn't like WordPress based. It was still like very rigid. Like you were basically publishing it to the web, but you couldn't go in and like change, or you had to like have editors change things. It was very static and stiff. Yeah.
You know, like that was an era. And then I think in 2012 and 2011 and 2010, there was like the era of like indie blogs almost, like Gawker Network and the Splitsider Network. Is that what it was? Or the All Network? That's what it was. Like those were so cool and influential. And they had the voice, like the friend voice, the gossip voice, that I think is something that has been totally lost since those publications, you know, RIP'd. Fortunately, I think those publications, the voices are back, except they're now on Substack. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like,
or they're all on social media, or they're in podcasts like we're doing now.
Yeah. But I mean, in the written form, like reading a snarky, gossipy article about XYZ's Christmas party, that was exclusively available on Gawker.com. Like there was no other place that you were going to read that article. And now there are like various Substacks that will publish, like, here's what happened at the New Yorker's Christmas party.
Yeah, I can imagine what Gawker would be doing right now in this day and age.
I think they'd be having a lot of fun.
Yeah. What did you, now take me after, when did you start jumping into, you said you're going to start going from CEO to becoming front of the camera. Take me through that.
So in 2019, when I kind of made the decision to put down entrepreneurship, which is funny because I'm still an entrepreneur, just not the businessman. You know, I had all this experience, and I was like, you know, there are multiple routes to take. I could go straight to like Hollywood and try to make it as an actor or a writer. I could go the stand-up route and like develop an audience in person and then figure out what to do with them.
Two very tough routes.
And then there was just the like, to me, the very obvious route, which was like, get on the internet and do what you do best, except now you're the main attraction and not someone else. And so I started essentially publishing without really a plan. And it did slowly work, right? Like I did successfully rebrand myself over the course of maybe a year and a half or two, from a business guy to a creator or a comedian is what I was going for, which I think I was. And I was still doing stand-up and stuff, but like in my mind, it was like, I need to get the reps in. I took classes at UCB. I graduated from there and did improv, sketch, and stand-up at Brooklyn Comedy Collective. Like I did the work of education. And then at the same time, I started actually performing live. And at the same time, I did the internet video stuff. I was doing it all at the same time.
When did were you always a comedian?
I was always funny. I was like class clown.
Okay.
Class clown for sure. But yeah, I was always, I mean, I always seemed like I was funny. I don't know if I would call myself funny, but people find me funny.
But in 2019, you're like, I'm going from entrepreneur, like I'm going to die. Like, did you do any comedy before that? Like professionally or like workshops or that sort of stuff?
I no, I didn't really do that. I always thought it was kind of corny to do a improv class so you could get better at making a presentation.
Was it corny?
To do a comedy class so that you could
do like you said you went UCB. What's that? Is it
Upright? Yeah. No, I think it's cool to do it if you want to be a comic, but they have these corporate sort of like do improv 101 so that you're better at doing presentations.
I never heard of that.
Well, maybe you should take it. I'm just kidding.
I probably should. I know a lot of people that should. I know a lot of people that should.
No, but they take classes so that they can be better at presentations.
Sounds like a good way to make speaking. It's a good way to make money for UCB. I'll tell you that.
It's a good way. It's true.
So, what were you doing for money when you're doing this stuff? Because this is like a route for poverty.
Yeah,
you weren't exactly like 22 out of college.
Exactly, and that is why the kind of experience that I had really paid off. Because at 33 years old, there is nothing worse than telling somebody that you're an aspiring comedian. It's a surefire way to get laughed out of any date. Any new friendships, any new acquaintances, probably get laughed out of a restaurant.
It's almost like, I'm trying out for the NBA.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. Like I'm working on my game. I'm hitting the gym.
It's so bad to be a 33-year-old aspiring comedian. But I was.
Okay.
And fortunately, I didn't have to change my lifestyle so much because I had such a good network of people and such good experience that I was able to continue consulting on digital media.
Okay.
Like I was consulting with digital media companies, regular brands, etc. And so like I liken it to having a rich parent, but I was the rich parent. I was my own rich parent. You know what I mean? So like I had the time and the freedom to experiment and make videos that failed and like do stand up and make new friends and kind of, kick about for a while. But at the same time, I definitely took a pay cut, but not like a tremendous pay cut. Like I didn't have to move out of my apartment. Like I didn't have to sacrifice much aside from my own money, which I essentially looked at as an investment in myself. I was really fortunate to have had the experience working at Vice and the Times and starting my own company because I just was on retainer at a couple places and then would pick up a couple random projects every, quarter. And it was more than enough for me to be able to like explore this newfound interest.
Was it important, do you think, that you could do do comedy and experiment and not have to worry about putting food on the table?
It was extremely important.
Tell me about that.
I mean, when you only have to worry about yourself, I've been poor many times. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that is another thing about entrepreneurship is that you're poor 3 times and rich twice. Like, it's up and down and up and down. So I didn't have to worry about my family because I didn't have one yet.
Yeah.
And it was okay if I had moments of failure or periods of stagnation. There wasn't that constant stress to feed a family or to pay like an exorbitant mortgage, just my rent and myself. But I think in terms of like real freedom, there's only one other time in my life that I felt that free, both creatively and expression wise. And it was the first pretty much year or two that I moved to New York, where you have no friends, you have nothing to do, you have all the time in the world. And it's complete blue ocean in front of you. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to see. You're just existing. And that's kind of how I felt in those moments of transformation, is that I was in no real rush, but also there was a clock ticking in my head that I needed to be successful as quickly as possible. You know what I mean? Like I had to get to a place where I felt confident introducing myself as a comedian and not feeling like a liar. That was honestly a huge motivation for me because I did never say aspiring. I immediately day one was like, I'm a comedian. But in my mind, it was like aspiring. It was like correcting myself.
Don't say that part out loud.
Don't say that part out loud because again, like also you're not gonna get booked on a show as an aspiring comedian.
No.
You're either a comedian or not a comedian. And for me, I did the same thing that I did at work essentially, which is like I identified, and it wasn't this strategic, and it wasn't like so. There wasn't a methodology behind it, but like I identified people that I was inspired by or influenced by, or who I just thought had cool kind of like comedy, and I became their friends. And I tried to create a community around me by launching my own show. So rather than like running around doing open mics, I was like, well, I'll just provide the show, and the audience and the comedians will come do my show, and then I'll become friends with them, and then they'll invite me to do their show. And that's always been something that I've been good at, is kind of like making myself the center of attention.
And what were you doing in those early days? What were those shows? Or what were you posting online in those early days?
Well, I had a really great live show called Tonight's Special, which took place in a diner in Brooklyn called Kellogg's Diner, and that one was a monthly show. That was live, but we would sell out every single time. It was like 80 people.
You'd rent it out?
No, we had a deal. We cut a deal with them. I mean, Irene, the owner, was like, I'll rent it out to you guys for $200 a night. And I was like, listen to me. You're going to make a lot of money if you give me the space for free, because I didn't want any percentage of the food and beverage. I was like, you give me the space for free, you can keep everything. 80 people times $30 a table on a Thursday night, like, it was pretty damn good for her. So that show became kind of a cultural institution, even though it was only around for about 2 years. And then the diner unfortunately closed. But that, we got press, we got written up about it. Like, it was a good way to start a thing.
Would you put these shows online or just live?
No, they were just live.
Okay.
And then I also had just my random like video clips that I would do all the time. But that was me developing a voice. It was trying to understand what I thought was funny and what kind of content I thought was funny, right? So it was all over the place constantly. My first kind of effort in creating an actual show or a series was called Stupid Studies. And I was like,
you're good with names. You're good with
thank
titles.
you very much. I appreciate that. I was like, I'm going to be Trevor Noah of TikTok. That was my idea.
Okay.
I was like, there's not a Trevor Noah on TikTok. There should be. I'll do that. So I shot probably like 15 episodes. I actually built a studio in my kitchen at the time. And because I didn't want to have the excuse of like, I'm too lazy. It's like I woke up and my kitchen's right there and I can see the studio.
Yeah, no excuses.
No excuses.
Instant guilt. It's like right there.
Yeah, and so I shot that show by myself.
Was it like a variety show? Would you have like guests come on from TikTok, or you just comment like what was that? The old Talk Soup, when the guy's just commenting on like clips.
It was like the Weekend Update.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it was one subject and it was 1 minute. So it'd be like, the earth is burning. The ocean's on fire. That's what I did. And then I talk about some silly facts and make some silly jokes and post that online. And here's what I think. I think that show was ahead of its time, because at the time, no one was making shows on TikTok or Instagram. Mm-hmm. It was only YouTube that there were shows. So this was the first vertical, maybe not the first ever in the world, but it was early days of like making vertical short form entertainment.
Okay.
And the reason I did it is because I was looking for an idea so that I wouldn't have to wake up every day and say, I got to make a video. What am I going to make it about? This was more like a job. It was an assignment, and I'm good at being my own boss. So that's why I built the studio in my kitchen, because I knew if it was there, I would use it.
Okay.
And I think the problem was people didn't know what it was. They didn't understand a social series that was vertically shot in someone's kitchen about the news. I think that idea would totally hit right now. Like, I think it would be a great idea.
Yeah, now there's all these news influencers and folks that do this stuff.
Yeah, and I made it really fun. Like, I painted, like, it was a whole cardboard painted background, so it looked like a skyline of New York City, but it was made out of, like, house paint, and it like, looked like a late-night talk show, except it was a cartoon. I had like a big mug, an oversized mug that was also made from cardboard that actually hid the mic underneath. It was just like a crazy thing. There was like a moon hanging from the ceiling. Like, it was just it looked like a play, like a high school play.
Yeah, it's creative. I like
that.
Yeah,
it was really fun. And that was a constraint, like a budgetary constraint.
What were your what were your friends and family at this time thinking? Because obviously you were, in cutting edge, high tech journalism with the Times and Vice. You had your own company, and suddenly you have a cardboard moon in your kitchen, and you're trying to make it.
Yeah.
What did they think?
I've had a lot of friends tell me that they thought I'd lost my mind.
Okay.
Yeah. They which is nice that they're honest.
Yes.
But they were honest. maybe 2 years ago when they said, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought you lost your mind.
In hindsight, they never said like there was no intervention.
There was
like,
no intervention.
No one came, you didn't come into your kitchen and all your friends were sitting there with the cardboard.
No, but they were definitely talking shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the group chat was probably like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
You know, or this is so cringe, which it was cringe. But I also didn't care. I was like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do until it becomes good. I had to put in the reps. And my mom was the one that was like, if you say so. That's what she said. If you say so, you know, because it's like I'm leaving the Times, I'm leaving Vice, I'm leaving Entrepreneur, I'm leaving my business, which, like I said, I ran for 5 years successfully, financially successful.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, but no one stepped in and said, don't do this. And I think the other side of the coin is that I had a lot of friends that said, because I was like, I'm gonna become famous. Like that's my plan. I literally remember calling someone saying, I'm gonna become talent. They're like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm gonna become talent. Like that's my new mission is to become talent. That's it.
Okay.
Because I realized like I didn't want to send emails every day. What I realized is that talent has a very fun job. Like you get to be talent.
Yeah.
It's great. You get to do new things. You get to experience new things. You're on set. Like you're on a podcast. You're doing this. You're doing that. You're not in the office. I'm definitely sending a lot of emails still, but I also have other people that send emails on my behalf.
Yeah. You're not on the Excel sheet all day doing that stuff.
I'm not doing any of that. Like I check my email, but I don't have to send as many emails. Yeah. And it's not emailing for a living. It's emailing so I can get to a place where I make a living. But I had a lot of friends that also said, if anyone can do it, it's you. So I don't know if that was encouragement or just them being nice, but there were a lot of people, especially my closest friends who were not comedians or not, you know, that had just known me for a long time. They had seen me reinvent myself so many times that they were like, yeah, you'll do it. You know, they were like, we believe that you will do it.
You mentioned in the beginning, it was cringe. You had to get your reps in. What did you learn through that experience? Like, what did when you were honing it and practicing it? What good habits did you pick up? What bad habits did you drop? Like, take me. This is like a movie montage. Mm-hmm. Take me to like Kareem learning on how to like be talent.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything that I would have done differently. I think that the lessons are like, move fast, like don't be afraid to experiment, keep going, consistency is key. Like, don't give up, you know, eventually, like Seth Rogen has a thing where he talks about like how all the people that want to be actors and then quit, like he's pretty much like anyone can be an actor eventually. You just have to be at the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. And most people, they quit right before their big break or their medium break or their small break. But he talks about how if you stay in it long enough and you're good enough, something is bound to happen. So I think that's something that people, like, I didn't expect it to happen fast. I was like, I'm in this for the long run. What I will commit to is jamming 10 years of work into 5 years. That was honestly what I was going to do. And that's what I did. And, but I wouldn't take anything, I wouldn't do anything differently. Because the biggest lesson is that even if it's cringe, even if it's bad, that somebody will eventually take it seriously or truly identify with it to the point where they like want to work with you. And so that happened to me when this guy, New York Nico, who's like, at the time was like my Martin Scorsese, DM'd me and he was like, hey, I think your comedy is really funny. I have an idea for a movie. Would you be willing to write it? I didn't know how to write movies, but I did the same thing that I always do, said yes, and wrote a script, sent it to him 72 hours later. I think that's also a big thing that people need to understand, is that the secret to doing things is doing them. The secret to working is working. And so when he came to me and said, like, do you know how to write scripts? Can you write one? I didn't say, yeah, man, I'll send you a script. I said, sounds good. I'll send you a script in 72 hours. And then I did it and followed through. But my point is that maybe 25,000 people were following me at the time, and maybe 25,000 of them thought that I was cringy and were following me because they hated me. But at least one person was like, I actually like this. And that one person turns out to be someone semi-important and who has since become a very close friend. But we ended up making the movie together.
Wait, I'm going to go back to this. You had never written a script. did he give you an idea, or did you say,
Yeah.
you'd say write a movie, and did you do a crash course or like read a book, or just did it? Like, I want to hear about this. Is, most people spend years on this stuff.
So I had a very amateur experience writing scripts, aka I wrote sketches sometimes. Like, I'd written 1-page sketches, and I learned how to do that at UCB. So I knew the general structure of what a sketch should look like, but I'm saying this as like I knew what it should look like. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what it should, like, I knew what it physically should look like. Like, it should say INT dot, which stands for interior.
Okay.
Like, I knew what it looked like, but I didn't really know anything about film structure or like film writing or character development. And he came to me with the presence. He was like, I really want to make a movie about a guy who has to take a shit before a very big date. And I go, okay, that makes sense.
That was your guidance.
That was my guidance.
How long was this movie supposed to be?
Short. It was a short, but
Gotcha.
It ended up being the longest short. It's like 30 minutes.
Okay.
I don't think we could have stretched it out to 90. It's a good movie. It's called Out of Order. It's available on YouTube. But I remember I watched, like, right after I got the brief, which is a movie about a guy who takes a shit before a big date.
A very brief
and
brief.
can't find a bathroom.
Okay.
That's the whole crux of it. I watched this movie called After Hours, which was directed by Martin Scorsese. Essentially about a guy who's from uptown, and he kind of gets stuck downtown, and he has this crazy night where he's trying to get home, back uptown, but like all of these things keep happening. Eventually he gets framed for murder. Like, it's crazy. And I was like, okay, my movie is similar to that movie, except it takes place during the day and the stakes are a little bit lower.
Yeah.
But I watched that movie and I essentially condensed that idea into something that was 30 pages. And also I had the idea to cast people from the Nicoverse, from New York Nico's like Instagram channel. So the writing became a lot easier because I just went on his page and I go, oh, who's this guy? Okay, he's interesting. Maybe he can be the guy that spills a coffee on me at the coffee shop. Oh, who's this guy? Oh, he seems interesting. Maybe he can be like the guardian angel who like sends me on the right path. So the writing became a lot easier through that. But yeah, I didn't really know anything about script writing. I didn't even watch any YouTube videos, which is that's the advice I would give to someone right now. Is like, if you want to write a script, watch a YouTube video.
That works. What was that was obviously a big break for you in the entertainment world. That was
my first break.
First break. What was your big break as, in front of the camera talent on social media?
Well, after I wrote that movie and produced it, at the final hours, Nico was like, I think you should play the guy. So I was also in that movie. So that's the first time I felt like something was happening, because I got recognized a few times. They were like, oh, you're the guy from Nico's movie, which was really cool. But the first, I would say my actual big break, or at least my medium break, that's what we'll go with.
Medium break.
So the movie was the small break.
Okay.
The Keep the Meter Running was my medium break, which again was an idea for a series or a show on TikTok that I had in my pocket for a long time. And it was essentially to hang out with cab drivers and do whatever they wanted to do for the day. And my friend Adam was like, I'll produce that for you. I said, sounds good. So we went out, and on day one, we went out without a plan. We had 2 cameramen. Adam was one of them, and we held a cab. And he said no, and then we held another cab, and he said no, and we held another cab, and he said no, and we did that about 20 times. I think we actually moved from Brooklyn to Manhattan to get a cab because we were failing. It was rainy. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. I think that this is a bad idea now. But then some guy said yes, and the minute I got in the car, I said, take me to your favorite place and keep the meter running, which was off the cuff. And then while we were shooting the episode, I had this moment where I was like, I think that this is going to be a huge hit. And
it's like reverse Taxi Cab Confessions.
Yeah.
For all you 90s kids out there. HBO. Have you seen it? Okay.
Still haven't seen it. I know it takes place in a cab.
Okay.
But I thought it was a game show.
No. This was different. This was where they had like a cab driver was like a documentarian, and they had like a camera, and they would just basically pick up people that are all like it was HBO in the 90s, so they were either like super like messed up on drugs, or they were like very alternative, and like giving them like they start like giving, it was like a confessional. It was
cool.
Taxi Cab Confessions. It was like being in like and then talking about their stories,
in the booth.
But they only probably just aired the crazy ones.
Wow.
So
That's
it
so
was
interesting.
instead of your one is a taxi driver telling the story.
Yeah.
This was the writer telling the story.
That's cool. I should probably watch an episode. I have this thing where I don't watch it, with the exception of After Hours. I don't, because I didn't know what I was doing. I don't really have references, like when I make things.
No,
I try not to make a mood board or have references.
Just from your own head.
Yeah, I try not to like be like, oh, it's like this but this.
Yeah.
You know, it's the old startup problem of like it's Uber for dog walkers. I don't want to do that, so I don't really do that at all. But that thing, we put up the episode. I turned my phone off because I was like, I can't deal with another failure. Literally, I was like, I don't want to watch it. Like, I don't want to watch it flop. And then Adam's texting me like 100,000 views. 10 minutes later, 400,000 views. An hour later, 600,000 views. And then the next morning, 2 million views. And I was like, holy shit, that actually worked.
And you're just throwing this up on YouTube?
On TikTok.
On TikTok. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't even put it on YouTube or Instagram at the time. I was just like focused on TikTok. And the reason I realized, the way I realized it was really a hit is when I went to the bodega that day, the day after the video came out, and the bodega guy recognized me from the video. And I go, wow, because that's the audience. Like, real people are the audience.
You're bodega famous. That's a big deal.
Bodega famous, taxi famous, street famous. That's the people. Like, I'm not making a show so that my peers can watch the show. I'm making a show because I want people to watch the show. Normal, good people. And when the bodega guy recognized me, I was like, this is a big deal.
What do you think what was it about that video that took off?
I mean, I just think it was a novel concept. No one had ever seen it before. It's a universal experience. Everyone's taken a cab. It's a universal experience that you've had a moment with a cab driver, whether that's a good moment or a bad moment. Most of them are good, honestly. So many stories pour in being like, I met this taxi driver in Austin. Oh, I was in Pakistan. This taxi driver took me the best food, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a universal experience. And it was just so, like, mundane, when the internet is so, like, in your face, like Mr. Beast, who does his thing and he does it really well. But I didn't end the episode with, like, and now I'm going to pay off your mortgage. Like, it was literally just like, tell me your story. Cool, interesting, let's go eat some food, blah, blah, blah. And there were funny moments in it, but it wasn't about the theatrics of, like, solving his world's problems or, like, impressing the audience with fireworks. Like, it was just a thing. And I think that is what, like, it felt relatable. And I think not in the relatable way, like, we need to make relatable content that you see on a brand's deck for ideas.
Yeah, you're not pandering. You just want to hear the guy's story.
Was.
And you're not trying to be the hero either. You just want to hear his story. You're listening.
I just want to be around. And that show that is what I would say, like, and then there was a Vanity Fair article based on that. That was my first real press that I felt really proud of.
On one video?
No, we had done, like, I think at 4 at that point.
Okay.
But that's not a lot.
No.
But we got Vanity Fair, we got Insider, we got I don't remember, there was the New York Post. We got, like, a lot of good press. And I think that was the first time in my life that I felt validated and recognized as a comedian. It finally had happened. Like, of course, being in Tribeca was like there was no award, but I felt like I had an Oscar. But then being recognized by the press is, I think, another step towards essentially manifesting a reality, because you're not saying you're a comedian. The headline says you're a comedian, which I think a lot of people would say, like, you don't need validation from anyone. Personally, I do. Like, that's my own personal problem.
You can drop the actual. You're not an actual comedian.
No, aspiring. Drop the aspiring.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, turn from aspiring to actual.
Yeah, because it said this New York comedian spent $4,000 on cabs or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, And then the Vanity Fair article compared me to Anthony Bourdain, which was really amazing. So that was the moment where I was like, I felt like I made it. At least I made it to the other side. You know what I mean? I felt like I had completed the metamorphosis. Of course, the money wasn't there. Of course, like, there was still a long way to go, but it felt like the metamorphosis was complete. And I felt really whole. And that's honestly when I feel like I stepped into the life that I've always wanted, but had suppressed for so long because I was in pursuit of money, literally. Because at the time, like when I was an entrepreneur and a businessman, I wasn't even in pursuit of validation or recognition. I was simply in pursuit of money. So, but this is the first time that I felt like I found what I'm looking for, and I found what I'm looking to do. And I felt like I could do it probably for the rest of my life if I wanted to.
How does that compare, getting that validation in the press as a comedian versus like your biggest payday as an entrepreneur?
Money's nice. There was never a big payday as an entrepreneur.
Gotcha.
Like, I'm sure if I had made $2 million or something, which is not even that much money anymore, if I had made, I mean, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
But it's
yes.
not these days. Yeah. In these times, it's a modest living.
It's like a carton of eggs these days.
Yeah. That's how much it costs, $2 million for 24.
That's it for
Costco. But I don't know. Like, in terms of validation, I think the press is still more important. The money is great. I would love both.
Love it. So now you're an actual comedian, and what did you start doing? Did that change your content? Does that change how you're doing things, or did you keep on doing the taxi cab series?
At that point, I leaned into
keep the meter running. That was covered.
Yeah. I kept on keeping the meter running for about 20 episodes.
Okay.
And realized that, the next step of that show specifically is to do long form. And I didn't know how I wanted to do long form. I didn't know if I wanted to be on TV. I didn't know if I wanted to be on YouTube. I didn't know if I wanted to be some sort of hybrid. But I was like, the short form is great. But one of the questions that was always on those videos is, where can I watch the full thing? And I'm like, there is no full thing.
Yeah, this is it. You're seeing it all.
Yeah, exactly. And so I also was like, there should be a full thing. Like, this does feel a little bit incomplete.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to put this on ice for a second and develop it into a long form series and figure out, whether it lives on TV or whether it lives on YouTube. I'm not sure yet. And also the show was getting expensive. I mean, it cost like $2,000 to $3,000 per episode. Thank God I was a consultant because I was able to waste that money.
Yeah, and you weren't making money on TikTok, or not much money.
No, I wasn't making any money. So everything was essentially self-funded and subsidized by Kareem Rahma Inc.
You were taking some very expensive cab rides.
I mean, I was literally paying whatever the meter was. Yeah. Sometimes it was $700.
Okay.
But I was like, this is not a sustainable business model, but I have a proven format. I have a great idea. I can pick this up. I'm the guy. You can try to replicate it, but I'm the guy. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, I was like, I do believe that this is the right path. Like, short form, unscripted, vertical video content is for me.
Okay.
That is what I'm good at. And I love saying unscripted, short form, vertical video content.
It's a tongue twister.
I just think it's really funny to say.
It's like a vocal warm up. Get you going.
People are like, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, I make unscripted, short form, viral video format, vertical video. Like, I like saying it. I think it's hilarious. But I was like, that is the future of, I think, entertainment as a whole. And then I was like, I need to figure out how to make something that is like Keep the Meter Running, but is more scalable.
Yeah.
Where I can actually keep the meter running without breaking the bank.
With no meter.
With
hence
no
the
meter.
subway.
With no
$2.50 and you can go
free,
over all over the city.
It's free for me.
Free. Just jump.
MTA, I hope you're not listening.
You just jump the turnstile.
I can't jump it. I take the exit door.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
The fire door.
Hey, you got to hustle. Right?
Emergency door. And that is funny because I actually didn't want to make that show at all. I was like, I don't want to do another. Like, I knew it was the way, but I was also like, why am I not a movie star? Like, I did Keep the Meter on. I should be a movie star. Like,
you did it. You did the bathroom joke movie, and then the cabs.
Yeah, when Steven Spielberg going to
call. You're moving up. You're moving up the ladder.
I was waiting for the real Martin Scorsese to call.
Yeah.
He didn't call. So, I at the time I had been kind of dabbling in premium podcast, scripted and unscripted. And I was thinking about premium podcasting because it was like, I think it was like 2021, 2022. And there was a moment in time where like premium podcasts were the soup du jour. It was like the pivot to video. Me and my friend Andrew, who's the co-founder, co-creator of SubwayTakes,
Okay.
we had spent a lot of money trying to develop and produce premium podcasts. And we had done some good projects, but we'd also spent all the money.
Now, were these like one-off? Were they interview shows, or they were like almost like a serial or like a storytelling sort of thing?
They're
they're all storytelling, but was it interviews or was it like a mini series?
There was one interview series which I hosted, but like it was sound designed to sound like a cartoon. There was like a lot of music, there were sound effects, and the premise was that I would tell guests stories and they would keep interrupting me, and I kept trying to finish the story. But there was like all these cartoony elements to it.
Okay.
And then there was a couple of other shows that never made it to air. I think we did one project that we sold to another media company, and we produced it for them. And then there was one project that we aired featuring me. And then there were like 4 or 5 projects that were in development but never made it out. We had like $10,000 left in our bank account, and we were like, let's just do the opposite of what we've been doing. Like we were making premium long form scripted, mostly podcasts. We're like, what is the exact opposite of that? And it's like, okay, the shortest podcast that has no audio version, it's only video. Let's call it a podcast, even though it's only distributed on TikTok and Instagram. And there's no long form. And it's the opposite of premium. It's super raw, super unfiltered, super uncut. And I had the idea to do a show about takes. And I was like, that's the basic idea, is like, I just asked people, what's your take? And my friend Andrew, business partner Andrew, said, what if we did it on the subway? Like, Keep the Meter Running was really successful. Maybe you'll have good luck on the subway as well. I said, you know what? We don't have money for a studio, so sounds good to me. And so we went out there and we did it. And in that first few episodes, like, I started saying 100% agree, 100% disagree, which was not a part of the plan until I did the show. I also did the MetroCard mic literally the day before we shot the first episode. Or no, the hour before. We were standing at the train station being like, what do we put the mic on? I was like, I don't want to use the tiny mic. Like, everyone's using the tiny mic. So we just threw it on the MetroCard.
I love that, because that goes back, that when you said that you used to have the cardboard mug to hide the mic, that's like the seed that plant, like that is like very similar to the, whatever, 5 years later.
Yeah.
Because you had the MetroCard mics.
I never thought that. But thank you for noticing something about my story.
My contribution for the day. There we go.
Yeah, but there was so much magic that occurred on that first day, and I'm gonna release a trailer for SubwayTakes.
Okay.
Which I don't advise, and I don't think they work. I think a trailer is a stupid idea. It's a waste of time. But I was like, again, I'm gonna do everything the opposite of what I would do, because we were releasing trailer.
You pulled the George Costanza. Just do the opposite.
That's what I did. Yeah. I did the opposite, and then the trailer got 1 million views, and I was like, oh my god, what is happening? And then the first episode, it took a while. I remember me and Andrew were texting. We were like, well, didn't work. Time to close the doors. Like, we failed. And then it got like 400,000 views after like 3 days. And then I posted the second episode again and again and again, and it kept going. And I was like, all right, we got a hit. And I just have never felt so lucky to have 2 back-to-back like massive hits. It's hard to replicate success. Sophomore slump, as they call it. So I didn't have the sophomore slump, but I may have a junior slump if I decide to launch a new show.
Hey, you gotta give it a shot.
Yeah.
I love this story because, people might be like, oh, this guy he had a great idea, like, go interview people on the subway. But I love how it was the product of trying all these other things and going from the super high to not low, but super high production to like, let's just put a mic on the subway, jump the turnstile, or go through the exit door and go. I love it. It's like, it looks like an overnight success, but you spent 5 years making the steps to get to this spot.
And also, like, I remember I bought the cameras, and I was like, I bought them on a credit card, $14,000 for both the cameras. And I was like, I put it on a credit card, and I felt so bad, because I was like, what if I don't use them? And then I was like, you know what, I can sell them, or I'll return them, or whatever. And without those cameras, I don't think I would have done SubwayTakes. I had bought those cameras to do Keep the Meter Running. And because I had the equipment, because I bet on myself, again, because I invested in myself, because I was my own rich parent and could at least put them on a credit card, knowing that it wouldn't be the end of it. At least I had credit.
Yeah.
Knowing that I had credit. That I was able to, you know, make that show without having to like have the hassle and headache of like renting equipment or asking people to borrow their equipment. Like I was just like, I'll take these cameras that I've bought and put them to good use. And honestly, that's a huge thing because we may have not had enough money to do that, you know, but I had the cameras. So that's another big part of it is like I had bet on myself so many times that I accumulated so much junk that was useful. Junk knowledge, junk information, junk intangibles. Like that's a lot of stuff too is the intangibles. Like saying 100% agree or 100% disagree was not a part of the plan. It is just what came out of me. And so when I talk to other creators or aspiring creators or people who want to be media entrepreneurs, I encourage them to stop overthinking, to develop the idea 80% of the way, and to let the actual magic happen in the shoot. Because you're going to discover a lot of new things while you're shooting. And that's good. Like Keep the Meter Running. Same thing with the food. I didn't think it was going to be a food show. All of a sudden it became a food show because the drivers let it be a food show, you know? And that is something that I think a lot of people struggle with is like not taking the first step. And I'm like, you don't have to have 100% baked idea. You have to have like a good premise and maybe 80% of an idea to make it great.
Now what is the current state of your media?
So
like day in the life, are you focused on the SubwayTakes?
So right now, Keep the Meter Running, still in development and getting closer. I just want to do it right. You know, that project is so heartfelt to me. And so it's like, it holds a very important piece of my heart. And I just want to get it right. So I'm doing the opposite of what I always do, which is move fast, hoping that on this one, moving slow will be the right move. So my day, you know, I just have a movie that's coming out, a feature film that I wrote, produced, and starred in.
Come on, plug it, man.
It's called Or Something. It'll be out soon at a theater near you. So that movie, I'm like doing all the work of promoting it and screening it and doing the Q&As and setting up all this kind of like promotional material. And then SubwayTakes is the core of my current career, right? Like that's what I focus on most of the day. And it's because two things. One, I have a goal to hit 1 million followers before May. So I'm publishing 6 to 7 times a week.
Well, now you're on my show, you're going to hit it. You're going to blow through it.
This is it. This is it for me?
Rocket ship.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's slow and steady, man. Slow and steady every day. But I doubled the production. I started at 2, then I went to 4, then I went to 6. And 6 episodes a week, okay. Yeah.
How long are you down underground for that?
I'd say I'm usually underground for 3 to 4 hours at a time.
Do people, how many, I know they're all great. How many swings do you have to get a person that you're going to air? Is it like, are you interviewing like 100 people hoping one is good, or do you?
I don't interview strangers.
Tell me how this works. I want to hear about this production.
I can't tell you how it works. That's his magic.
I mean, I know you've had some celebrity cameos. Obviously, you're not running into the subway, but are they?
There's no strangers on the show.
Are they all friends?
I would consider them friends. Friends of friends. They're all people I know.
Okay.
In some capacity, whether it's immediate know or know through someone else, because again, efficiency. Like, I've allowed strangers to do it when they interrupt me and say, "Can I please be on the show?" I say, "Sure, come on over," and they don't have takes.
No,
they don't. Everybody wants to be on the show. No one has a take.
They're just angry.
Yeah.
They're just angry, bigotry people.
No, it's not even that. They just literally freeze.
Okay.
They just have nothing to say. I go, "What's your take?" And they go, and I go, "You wanted to be on the show?" And they go, "Oh yeah, but I didn't know what my take is gonna be," So it's like, yeah. So they're all, I've pretty much published every video aside from like 2. There's been 2 that I haven't published, and my goal is to hit 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram, and then I'll feel like I have built a moat around the format and the page, because I've done it. It's not that easy to get to 1 million. Like 6 videos a week for 2 years. Good luck to anyone who wants to try. You know, like it takes a specific kind of psychopath like myself to do something like that, and many others. But you know, because I want to entertain myself, because at the core of all of this is me entertaining Kareem, I've now decided to do the masochistic endeavor of producing a longer form show called SubwayTakes Uncut, which is the same show you know and love, except long. So now we are airing, you know, episodes. We've done John C. Reilly, we did Jane Goodall, Cate Blanchett comes out soon, Hassan Minaj, ASAP Ferg, and more. And those conversations are like 20 to 30 minutes on the subway, and it's more of a podcast and less of a short podcast.
How have you gotten these? I mean, again, like you do a great job with like people you know, and you know, I didn't realize. I mean, everyone's very funny and eloquent, so I'm sure like that's not random. But like you got Cate Blanchett, who's like, you know, an Oscar, obviously famous actress, two-time Oscar. How did that come to be?
So we have an overwhelming amount of pitches happening inbound. I've never pitched anyone to be on the show. We made a decision early on that the show was not to be a talent-driven vehicle. It was more about Kareem and more about the format itself, rather than like the show is popular because celebrities are on it. Because I think that Hollywood approach of like, cool, put Will Smith in it, like doesn't work. Like there are so many shows hosted by A-listers that no one's heard of or watched, and they're all failures, and they're so expensive for no fucking reason. And so I was like
Prince Harry.
Yeah, what? I've never seen that show. Is it the Prince Harry and Markle show?
It's a whole like production company of them doing different things. But yeah, I don't watch it. I just read the nasty headlines.
Do some people like that one though?
I don't know.
Or some people are maybe watching it?
There's a lot of like snarky headlines on like Daily Mail and stuff about it.
That's because it probably sucks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have either of them on the show. Yeah. But I think, it was like, again, it was like, oh, Hollywood's doing this. It's not working. I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm not going to have any celebrities on the show. So we didn't have any celebrities on the show for like the first 100 episodes.
Wow. Okay.
Until a friend of mine who is a celebrity said, I really want to be on the show. I said, great, you can come on the show. She came on the show. And then that opened the floodgates to like every single person doing a press tour, and then people who are not doing press tours but are just bored and want to come on the show. So now it is literally, I mean, the amount of press pitches we get is, I'd say we get like at least 100 emails a day. 15 to 20 of those are from recognizable names that we would know in this room immediately. And, 1 out of 40 or 50 make it onto the show.
How did Cate Blanchett, I was very surprised to see her. I don't know, maybe because she's Oscar winner or she's British. How did that come to be?
I was also surprised too.
Did they reach out?
Yeah.
Did she want to plug it? Or was she a fan? Was the publicist a fan? Like, what was if you're Cate Blanchett, what was her motivation?
I think they're like, we're doing a press tour for a new movie.
Okay.
And we're going to do late night. And we're also going to do 1 or 2 of the popular internet shows.
Okay.
And I've heard from multiple publicists and managers and agents and talent that if you're going to do limited press, because it's a lot of work to do these things, if you're going to do limited press run, like do SubwayTakes and then ignore the rest of the short form, unscripted, vertical video shows.
Said it again.
So I think someone like Cate Blanchett probably sees the caliber of talent that we put on. I mean, we keep it so tight.
Yeah.
Like it's always a surprise. It's always like it's Jane Goodall, it's John C. Reilly, it's Alexa Chung, it's Cate Blanchett. You know what I mean? Like there's a caliber that people want to be associated with on the show. So we try to keep it tight intentionally, because I think a lot of the other shows will take any big name. And my show is not about big names. That's the thing. It's just not. I personally don't care at all. I would be happy to never do it again. It's more about the fact that I have to do it, because I think brands then are like, oh, he's, rubbing shoulders with Kate, stock goes up, price goes up, everything goes up, which is fine. So I'm playing ball. And I also do enjoy, I mean, it's really cool to meet Cate Blanchett. It's actually amazing. She's incredible. I never in my life thought I would meet her, and definitely never thought I would meet her because I have a show on the subway that is 90 seconds long. Like, that's not the case. So
how do you feel when you're interviewing her or you're interviewing, John C. Reilly? Like, you said you're a comedian. He's a huge comedian too. How do you feel when you're doing that? Are you nervous? Is it just as if you're doing it with me?
It's funny because I still make them pitch the take.
Okay.
Like I'm not like you still like Cate Blanchett had to, her email was really funny. It just said leaf blowers, leaf blowers, leaf blowers. And I pretty much got the point that she doesn't like them. I was like, great. That's, it's a good take. I have the same feeling. And she's obviously very passionate about it. So I think that once I know that they want to be there, I am not nervous at all. Like, it feels completely natural to me. I did 45 minutes with Cate, and she was amazing and such a pleasure to work with, and so funny and so kind and so natural and so normal. So I feel the same way.
And you'll do a 45-minute taping to get 90 like super tight seconds?
Well, no, now we're doing SubwayTakes uncut.
But I'm saying, I just want to get down to like how this distills. Like
on a normal episode, I shoot for like 8 minutes, 9 minutes.
Okay.
To do a 90-second episode. To do an uncut, we shoot for 45.
You mentioned people, doing press tours, and I read in the New York Times article that you did 2 people doing the biggest press tour ever, Kamala Harris and
Timothy Walz.
Tell me about that.
That was cool. It came the
How
same.
did that come to? I want to take me
the same way. They emailed me.
They emailed an email from the
DNC.
Okay.
And they said, "Hey, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are really interested in being on your show." I said, "That sounds cool.
Okay.
I'll at least get to tell my daughter that I met the potential president of the United States, or the not president of the United States, which is still cool." And so I said yes, based on the fact that it would be a good story, and also they both had good takes, and so they were like, "We'll fly you to," I think it was outside of Cleveland, or I don't even remember where it was. It was somewhere.
I figured it was going to be, because I don't know. Have you ever been to I did a story once in the Capitol, and they have a private senator subway that goes through the Capitol. And
I had no idea.
That would have been funny if you were like.
That would have been better.
Because I figure you're not going to have the vice president on the New York subway system
I tried.
They said on the Q train or whatever.
They said Secret Service would not allow it. I asked multiple times.
Yes. So you went to Cleveland.
Somewhere like Cleveland. I don't remember exactly where it was. Oh, was it Cleveland? What's in Ohio?
Columbus. We do our under 30 event there. Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. Those are the 3 big ones.
I think it was outside of Cleveland.
Okay.
Or Cincinnati.
Akron, Toledo, Dayton.
I was able to drive home from there.
To New York?
Yeah.
That's a long ride.
I know, because the flight got canceled and I had to make it back for a show. I don't remember where it was, but they flew me out there, and it was like some weird little rally in a Trump zone, which I also didn't know was happening. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, we're in like machine gun territory. Machine guns from the Secret Service, and then machine guns from the Trump people, machine guns everywhere. Yeah. And I was like, this is crazy, because I'd never been to anything like that. Like, I'd never been to like a political rally, especially one that is like, this was like a tiny one. It had like 30 people or 40 people from the community. And then there was a counter protest across the street. I was like, this is weird. But so then they made us do it on their bus, on their tour bus.
Makes sense. And what happened with Kamala?
Her take was really confusing and weird and not good. And so mutually agreed that we shouldn't publish it.
I see.
And I got lucky, because I didn't want to be blamed for her losing.
Her take was that bad?
It was really, really bad, and it was like didn't make any sense. I can tell you, it was bacon as a spice. Bacon as a spice.
Bacon as a spice.
Bacon as a spice.
You think that was her opinion, or you think she had like a research group to try to figure something that's
research group? Because originally the take that I was pitched was great, and it was that she does not like to take her shoes off on airplanes.
Okay.
And I was like, 100% disagree. You better be taking the shoes off. Like, I wear Birkenstocks on an airplane so that I can flip those mother effers right off the minute I get on.
But you got to have nice socks. You can't have like ratty socks.
Yeah, you can't have foot.
No.
No foot.
No foot.
No
No
skin.
skin.
No
No
skin and nice socks, no holes.
Yeah.
But I wear Birkenstocks. I flick them off 45 minutes into the flight. Even if the flight's an hour and a half, I flick them off.
Yep.
No shoes. And I was
she's flying Air Force One, even as vice president.
but in the past,
Yes.
I mean, you're either shoe taker off or you're not.
Yeah.
Are you a shoe taker
No,
off?
I'll take them off if it's like a red eye. I'm sleeping, but otherwise I keep them on.
Oh, that's difficult stuff. You should try it.
I'll give it a shot. I feel like it's just like gross down there. Everyone's feet in the bathroom and that kind
Well,
of
you
stuff.
put them on when you go to the bathroom.
No, I know, but I'm saying it's like the rug. Those rugs are still like there, man.
No, you don't take walks.
Well, what do you think about people do go to I see like sock bathroom people and that freaks me
No,
out.
that's awful. That's disgusting.
That's not even a take.
I would never,
It's just bad.
ever do that.
Bad news.
But yeah, and then at the last minute, I think research group said this makes you look rich and snobby,
Okay.
and you need to appeal to the American people. So she went with the bacon, and I tried to pause the interview and say, "Trust me, we shouldn't do the bacon thing." And I was overridden by this guy, who was maybe her deputy campaign manager or something.
Okay.
He said, "We're doing bacon." I said, "All right, we'll do bacon." And then an hour later, I got a call that said, "We can't do bacon." I said, "I know you can't do bacon." But then I tried to cut it into something else.
Okay.
It just wasn't working. And I was like, you know
So
what?
they overrode the bacon themselves.
First they rode the bacon, then they overrode the bacon. Then
Okay.
I tried to override their override by saying, I didn't just do all this work for no reason. I'm going to make it work. And
Yeah.
then I did make it work. And then they were like, this makes her look. And I said, whose fault is that? And then I was like, if I post this, a lot of people are going to be mad at me. If I don't post it, I still have a cool I still have a cool photograph with Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and a good story.
So I took the photo and the story, and I'm really lucky that I did that.
What was Tim Walz's hot take?
His was that the most neglected part of home ownership is the gutters.
Oh, so he's not a gutter guard guy.
He loves gutter guards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he loves them.
Maybe he's selling them now.
He probably is. He's but I was like, this is a weird take, but he was so passionate about it that I was like, the world deserves to see this. Like, this guy loves gutters. It made a lot of sense to me. And that's my favorite kind of take.
Yeah.
It can be mundane, but if you are passionate, like Cate Blanchett, leaf blowers, passionate. As long as you're passionate, take can work. But if it's genetically modified takes, I can tell.
You can tell.
I can tell from a mile away.
Like a
I've
politician.
had to do it a lot. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people come and they're like, I want to say this, and I go, no, you don't. You want to be perceived a certain way, but that's not what the show is for. You can't come here and say this message. You have to come here and say something that is personal and hopefully stupid, because that is funny. And at the end of the day, it's a comedy show. There's a tweet the other day that's hilarious, and it's about SubwayTakes, and it's this journalist, and she goes, "We need to end gimmick journalism," and it's a photo of me and Cate Blanchett.
Yeah.
And I go, wow, thank you for calling me a journalist. That's very kind of you, because I'm literally not. But then I replied to her, this is shade. This is shade right now.
Yeah.
I replied to her on Twitter, and I said, we need to end listicle journalism, and I screenshotted a bunch of her articles.
Oh, no, she wasn't at Forbes, was she?
No.
Okay,
But, I mean, why? Why the hatred? Like, why criticize me? I'm just a guy trying to make a living, an honest living, and I'm bringing joy to the world, and most of the time it's free for everyone to watch.
It's entertainment. It's not journalism.
Yeah.
Plus, there's a lot of worse things around the world than you interviewing
But I'm like,
Cate Blanchett
you as a journalist have done a bad job journaling the fact that I'm not a journalist. like I'm surprised that you're a journalist. If you perceive me as a journalist, that's on you, not me.
Yeah, just picking you out of the blue. That's
Then all these comments were in defense of SubwayTakes, obviously. But like I had to fire back. So I fired back with the screenshots of like, we need to end listicle journalism, because half of her articles are like, here are the greatest sweaters worn on Succession, and I was like,
oof. I don't know if that's journalism either.
No, that's why I said, but that's I would never come for her, but she came for me. But I'm like, leave me alone. I don't think about you. It's like that Don Draper meme. where it's like, I don't think about you at
And
all.
we all know Logan Roy wears the best sweaters. It's not even, you don't have to do any research. You just know that.
Yeah, he's a good sweater guy.
So how, after all of these hundreds of episodes, I got to ask, how do you make money now?
So we do branded content, and we work with a lot of brands, and we will work with brands very closely in various capacities.
Can you take me inside one of them?
Yeah, I'll do one that was really successful recently, which was with Google. And they have an Android initiative that they wanted to highlight. Somebody had originally come on the show organically that was really pro Android and was like, Android users are the best. Android is a better phone than iPhone.
That was her take.
That was her take organically.
Okay.
And she was passionate about it. So Google saw that because it did like 15 million on I think like YouTube, and then like 10 million on Instagram, and it was on the front page of Reddit. Like It was a hit. This was like a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And so Google hit us up and they're like, we love this video. What can we do? I said, let's bring her back and let's incorporate whatever messaging that you want to do into this video. And so so we developed a take together with the brand, but with the talent. And the only thing we really develop is the first sentence, which is that Android users are better lovers.
Okay. Okay.
And so that was a follow-up to part 2. And we like flashed back to the original so that it like to show the audience that like she's not just a plant. Like she is an Android customer.
She has credibility.
Yes. And that's the only thing, like there's nothing different about the video. There is actually nothing different about the video other than she's back with another take about Android users.
But as lovers.
As lovers.
Okay.
And then she goes into why they're better lovers, which again, we worked on the brand to like highlight specific messaging, and it did really well organically. No one was upset that it was sponsored. No one got mad. No one said this. No one said that. Like,
is that branded as branded content?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Paid partnership. And then I want to talk about some, but they're already out. Like one that's already out, like Hulu. We just did a deal with Hulu around their new show, Deli Boys. Which just premiered. So we had one of the talent on SubwayTakes. So that's like a really simple one. He picked his own take. I already knew him. He's a comedian. Like we didn't have to do anything. Okay. It was simply like watch Deli Boys somewhere in the caption. But effective marketing. Google was really happy, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but the sentiment on the video was super positive. Like it wasn't like most people agreed, which was great because we didn't do any paid posting or anything like that or any boosting. I'd have to look at the freaking page to remember what else is being worked on, but we Street Easy. We did Street Easy recently. That one they picked the talent, which was a comedian that I already knew, and helped develop the take with us. But the unique thing about that is that they wanted us to shoot in front of a Subway ad that was running in the Subway, like their ad.
Gotcha.
So it's her doing the video with a Street Easy ad in the background. Again, that one was collab posted with Street Easy and the comedian. Very cool, really easy to work with. But it seems like brands have a really good time, and they really trust us to do our thing. So any brand that comes to us, like we will figure it out. Some just want us to do whatever we want, and they just want the collab post. Others want to help cast. Others want like a product placement. I did one with pizza rolls, Totino's pizza rolls,
okay, yeah,
where I was eating pizza rolls for no particular reason, but it was really funny, and I was actually excited to do it because it was the first time we did product placement. So I actually pitched the brand that because they were like, let's do a take about snacks and pizza rolls. I said, what if we do the take about whatever, and I'm eating pizza rolls?
Because who doesn't love eating pizza rolls on a Subway? Like, I love eating on a Subway in general.
I went out and bought a La Crusade like nice bowl for the pizza rolls.
Okay.
My assistant Rami, associate producer on the show, heated them up for me, brought them to set. That one, I picked the comedian. I like sent them 3 or 4 comedians. They approved one. That comedian pitched 3 or 4 takes. They approved one. It had nothing to do with pizza rolls. But then I was like, I want to do the product placement because I've never done it before. So that one was really good. H&M did 3 videos with us.
Okay.
And for them, they were just like, we just want the guests to wear H&M. So I pitched them a list of like 10 people within the demographic of guests that they wanted. They picked the 3 people. They got a bunch of free clothes. They put it on. They did their takes, random takes.
Pretty easy.
Yeah. I think it was collab posted or tagged. But the way that we do branded content is really integrated, and it's very important to us in the same way that the celebrity thing is like, you are coming on SubwayTakes. You know what I mean? You are coming on SubwayTakes, participate in the show. And then I independently work with a lot of brands doing all sorts of stuff. I just directed and produced and starred in, obviously.
Your talent now.
A really incredible series that is based on Keep the Meter Running.
Okay.
With a huge brand. I don't know if I'm allowed to announce it yet, but it was cool because, again, I think I'm at a point where brands like what I do.
Yeah.
So they go, we like that. We want some of that for us. So like this brand saw Keep the Meter Running and they said, can you do Keep the Meter Running for us? And it was a really natural extension of what I already do with cab drivers, but with a different kind of driver.
Yeah, there we go.
And so that's coming out, I think sometime in March, 22nd or something. But that was cool, produced, directed. Yeah. So yeah, I do stuff for brands independently. I'm doing a red carpet for HBO in Los Angeles next week. And then SubwayTakes is you integrate into SubwayTakes in various ways.
I love how SubwayTakes started organically, but now with you explaining some of the examples, like it's so good for marketing.
Yeah.
Because so many products are about either hot takes or about rivalries. Like it's like Coke is better than Pepsi, or Instagram is better than TikTok, mm-hmm. or just like hot take that this product is the best, or I want to go on vacation here. Like it's an argument. Yeah, that's so good you could put any kind of advertising in there, mm-hmm. and it didn't do it on purpose, but I love how it worked out.
Yeah, and the product placement, like in one episode, I was drinking Body Armor, which we shot in Chicago. It was like a beverage.
Okay, I thought it was like body spray.
No. This is a beverage, kind of like, I don't know, competitors. And yeah, it's like there's product placement, there's inception into people's brains through messaging. There's brand mentions. I've had to mention brands. They're like, with like, they've asked to say like, you have to say the name of the brand twice in the take. But usually I will do it. Like usually I don't force that upon my guest, because that is like, they get paid, I get paid. But usually I'm like, I'll be the messenger of the messaging. But yeah, it's been a really, really nice business, and it's allowed me working with brands. I love working with brands, and it's allowed me to be able to expand the format into SubwayTakes Uncut. We're launching a new podcast soon. We're doing a live show on Saturday that's fully sold out. But those things are not necessarily money-making endeavors. They're all loss leaders. So, the short form show allows the subsidization of all of these other experiments.
Yeah, I was going to ask you're doing the SubwayTakes because you have to. I mean, you love it, but you have to do it because it pays the bills. If you have all these other ideas, you're obviously an idea guy. I would love to see what like your phone notes are like, because I'm sure you have all this stuff. But if you and I were sitting here a year from now or 2 years from now, like what sort of projects would you be telling me about that you're excited about?
I think I'm kind of like really back on the YouTube train. I think YouTube went away for a while, but I'm really into exploring like the 8 to 12 minute horizontal content, mostly because, YouTube on TV is really interesting to me. Yeah. It is, and it has tremendous growth potential, and also is growing at a rapid pace. So the idea that I can then control my own TV station, like actual television station, not phone. I love phone. You just see my screen time. But sitting down and turning on myself is a whole new experience for people.
Yeah, I heard a stat that I think over 50% of all YouTube users watch it on their TVs.
Yeah.
I don't, maybe, and you don't, maybe because we're like a little older.
I started after I read the stat.
Yeah.
Literally.
You're part of the majority.
Well, I read the stat and I said, let me see what this feels like, because I'm going to do it.
What'd you think?
It's great. Yesterday I watched Walton Goggins' Architectural Digest tour of his home upstate. I was entertained.
How was his house?
He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
Don't you think so? Don't you
He
think?
plays word characters. I'll tell you that.
But he's cool. I like the house. But yeah, that stat, I read the same stat, and it stuck with me, and I can't stop thinking about it. Actually, it's like that is the next frontier for me for sure. Is that like because I am obsessed with the idea of people watching me on TV, but TV no longer means television. It just means the device. So it doesn't mean streamer, it doesn't mean network, it doesn't mean studio, it means TV.
It's the vehicle. It is the hardware.
And the fastest way to get on TV is YouTube.
Well, hopefully people will be watching us in their living rooms when this comes out in a few days.
I hope so.
All right, big shout out and thank you, Kareem Rahma. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to see you in that undisclosed cab commercial very soon.
Undisclosed cab adjacent.
Short
form, vertical, unscripted video content.
And soon to go horizontal, like you said.
I'll see you on TV.
See you on TV.